we are doing something a little dangerous today.
Oh,
We are looking at the calendar, realizing we're a full quarter of the way into the 21st century, and we're deciding to call it.
calling it sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you're right. The years 2000 to 2025, I mean, that is a solid block of time.
It really is.
25 years of history, terror, technology, social upheaval, and crucially for our purposes today, literature.
Yeah.
It's finally enough time to actually look back and ask, what stuck?
Exactly. We always hear about the great American novel of the past. You know, you have your Grapes of Wrath defining the Depression, your Great Gatsby for the Jazz Age.
Right.
But what is the great American novel of our time? The one people will be reading in, say, 2125, to understand what it felt like to be alive right now.
It's the ultimate literary question.
Yeah.
And looking at the research we've pulled together, the critical aggregates, the prize lists, the cultural impact studies, the answer is, well, it's messy. Because the country is messy.
So there isn't just one book anymore.
No, there really isn't. But there is a consensus forming. A specific stack of about 10 novels that keep showing up at the top of every credible list.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We aren't just reading you a list of titles to check off.
No, we've analyzed why these specific books have risen to the top. We're going to break them down by vibe, from the trauma of history to experiments in structure, and help you figure out which ones are actually worth your time.
And we should be clear about the criteria here. It's not just about sales figures. It's not just about Pulitzer Prizes, though.
Though there are a lot of those in this stack.
A lot of them. It's about that elusive thing called the vibe. Does the book capture the specific anxiety, the speed, the complexity of the modern American experience?
Right. Does it feel like now? Or at least, does it explain how we got here? Because when you look at the last 25 years, the definition of American has expanded and fractured in really interesting ways.
So let's dive in. We're going to start in the deep end. Segment 1, the heavyweights.
These are the books that don't just tell a story. They grapple with the American soul, usually through the lens of history or trauma. This is the category for the reader who wants to be wrecked in a good way.
And sitting right at the top of almost every aggregate list we looked at is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead from 2016.
This book is a titan.
Right.
It won the Pulitzer and the National Book Award, which is, I mean, that's the literary equivalent of winning the Super Bowl and the World Series in the same year.
Yeah, that's huge. But tell me about the mechanism here, because Whitehead did something very specific with the genre. He took the slave narrative, a foundational American genre, and he twisted reality.
He did. It's a brilliant conceptual hook.
So in history class, we learned the Underground Railroad was a metaphor, a network of safe houses, abolitionists, secret routes. But Whitehead asked, what if it was real? What if there was an actual steampunk locomotive running through tunnels beneath the southern soil?
It sounds like a gimmick on paper, you know. But in execution, it does something so profound. It gives the escape a physical weight. It industrializes the freedom just as slavery industrialized the oppression.
Exactly. It turns a metaphor into a machine. The protagonist, Cora, travels from state to state, and each stop creates a different satirical or horrifying version of American racism.
Right. One state seems progressive but is practicing forced sterilization. Another is pure violent spectacle.
It's essentially Gulliver's Travels meets
Beloved. That's a great comparison. It's grueling, it's violent, but it uses that magical realism to make the history feel new again. It forces you to look at the legacy of slavery not as some dusty historical fact, but as the shifting, terrifying landscape.
So on our buy or borrow scale.
It's a must-read, but treat it with respect. It's heavy. It is visceral. You need to be in the right headspace for it.
Speaking of visceral, we have to talk about the book that practically defined the post-9/11 mood, even though it's not about terrorism at all. The Road by Cormac McCarthy, 2006.
Oh, this book. It stays in your bones. I think everyone remembers exactly where they were when they read the ending.
It really does linger. The setup is deceptively simple. A father and a young son walking south through a post-apocalyptic America. Everything is dead. The sky is gray. The trees are ash.
The snow is gray. They're just trying not to starve or get eaten by other survivors.
And unlike most post-apocalyptic fiction, there's no explanation. No zombies, no aliens, no breakdown of the specific bomb that went off.
It doesn't matter how the world ended. It only matters that it did.
That's the genius of it. It strips the novel down to its absolute rawest element. A parent trying to keep a child alive. It's a study in love under the worst possible conditions. The father is carrying the fire, which is the only morality left in a world that has eaten itself.
It's also stylistically very challenging for some people. McCarthy hates punctuation.
Right, no quotation marks.
The prose is sparse, almost biblical. He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. That kind of thing.
It hits you like a hammer. If you're a parent, it's almost a horror movie. But it's beautiful. Definitely a heavy read, but essential if you want to understand the anxieties of the 2000s.
Now, sticking with that heavy, slightly dystopian theme, we have a bit of a curveball, Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, published in 2005.
And we should acknowledge, Ishiguro is British. He eventually won the Nobel Prize. But you can't talk about the American literary landscape of the 2000s without this book.
You really can't.
It was everywhere. It was in book clubs, on college syllabi, everywhere.
It was. And while The Road is loud and violent in its despair, Never Let Me Go is quiet. It's suffocatingly polite.
It's in a boarding school, Hailsham, where everything seems fine, but something is just slightly off. The teachers are a little too guarded. The artwork the kids create is treated with this weird reverence.
Right. And we eventually learn these children are clones, raised specifically to donate their organs. But the horror isn't that they run away or fight the system. The horror is that they don't.
They accept their fate.
They do. They talk about completing instead of dying.
That's the key insight here. It's not really a sci-fi book about cloning. It's a book about mortality. We're all donors in a sense. We're all using up our bodies. We're all going to die. Ishiguro just compressed the timeline.
It explores how we justify looking away from human suffering to maintain our own comfort. It's subtle, sad, and deeply psychological.
So if The Road is a punch to the gut, Never Let Me Go is a slow poison.
That's a cheerful way to put it, but yes, it haunts you in the quiet moments.
Let's shake off the ash and the doom for a minute. Let's move to the second category, the epics.
These are the big, sprawling books that try to hold up a mirror to society. They deal with family, identity, and the American dream. This is usually where you find the traditional great American novel contenders.
And we have to start with the Pulitzer winner from 2002, Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides.
This is such a ride. It spans 80 years. It moves from a tiny village in Turkey to the assembly lines of Detroit. It covers the burning of Smyrna, the race riots of 1967. But the hook is incredibly intimate.
It is. It's narrated by Cal, who is intersex. The narrator was raised as a girl but transitions to living as a man. And the brilliance of the book is how it links biology to history.
Right.
The genetic mutation that makes Cal who he is travels down the family tree, just like their trauma, their recipes, their secrets.
It's a metaphor for the immigrant experience, right?
Right.
You carry things in your blood from the old country that you don't even understand until they manifest generations later. It makes the abstract idea of heritage into a biological reality.
Exactly. And despite the complexity of the themes, gender, incense, war, it is shockingly readable. It's warm. It's funny. It is a big, generous book.
It really is. It feels like someone sitting you down and telling you the wildest family gossip imaginable.
Now, if Middlesex is warm, our next entry is a bit cooler, bit sharper. Freedom by Jonathan Franzen from 2010.
Oh, Franzen. The guy the literary world loves to hate or hates to love. Freedom was on the cover of Time magazine. It was positioned as the book of the Obama era.
And does it hold up?
I think it does, but as a social critique. It's about the Berglund family. They are your quintessential liberal upper-middle-class family. They recycle, they renovate their Victorian house in a gentrifying neighborhood.
Yeah.
They worry about overpopulation, and they're completely miserable.
That is the freedom in the title, right? It's asking. You have all the freedom in the world to choose your life, so why are you making such a mess of it?
It dissects the modern family dynamic, the competition between spouses, the resentment between parents and children. It features very flawed characters. You might not like the people in this book.
No, probably no.
In fact, you'll probably find them annoying, but you will definitely recognize them.
It captures that specific 2010 moment where we thought we could lifestyle our way to morality. It's a medium difficulty read, very detailed, but rewarding if you like psychological realism.
Moving forward to 2013, we get a book that feels less like a social critique and more like an old-school adventure, The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt.
This book is massive, nearly 800 pages, and it polarized critics like nothing else. Some called it a masterpiece. Others called it a glorified young adult novel.
But it won the Pulitzer, so the masterpiece camp has some hardware.
They do.
It's often described as Dickensian. What it really means in this context is that it's plot-heavy, full of coincidences, eccentric characters, and orphans. It starts with a terrorist bombing at an art museum where the protagonist's mother is killed, and he steals a famous painting, the Goldfinch.
And the whole book is about his relationship with this object. It's about obsession.
Right. It isn't trying to diagnose America like Franzen does. It is trying to entertain you while making you feel deeply about art and loss. It asks whether great art is worth more than human life.
It is a page-turner, despite the length. It has that Harry Potter quality where you just want to know what happens next, but written for adults with beautiful prose. If you want a story that just pulls you along, this is the one.
Now, I want to pivot to the last book in this epic category, and honestly, maybe the most culturally significant one, Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, also from 2013.
I am so glad this is on the list. It disrupts the narrative. It's not about the immigrant dream of assimilating. It's about the reality of race in a globalized world.
Exactly. The protagonist, Ifemelu, comes from Nigeria to the U.S. to study, and she starts a blog called Race Teenth, or Various Observations about American Blacks, those formerly known as Negroes, by a non-American Black.
That perspective is crucial. She sees American racial politics from the outside. She realizes that in Nigeria, she wasn't Black. She was just Igbo.
She only became Black when she landed at JFK.
Right.
That distinction between American Black and non-American Black is something that really hadn't been explored deeply in mainstream fiction before this. It unpacks the unspoken rules of liberal America.
And she does it with such wit. It's actually a love story wrapped in a social commentary. It's accessible, it's funny, and it feels incredibly modern.
For sure. If freedom is about how Americans see themselves, Americanah is about how the rest of the world sees America.
It's the book that feels the most today. The blog posts in the book feel like they could go viral on Twitter right now.
Totally.
Okay, let's move to our third and final segment. We've done the heavy trauma, we've done the family sagas, now we're moving to the innovators.
These are the books that messed with the format. They realized that in the 21st century, a linear story might not be enough to capture the chaos. They play with time, structure, and voice.
And the poster child for this is A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, 2010.
This book broke the rules. It's technically a novel, but it feels like a concept album. It's a collection of linked stories about a rock producer and his assistant, spanning from the 1970s punk scene into a near-future New York.
But the structure is the star here. It jumps forward and backward in time. It changes distinct styles. One chapter is a celebrity profile article. Another is just pure dialogue, and we have to talk about that chapter.
The PowerPoint chapter. Yes, there's an entire chapter written as a slide. Deck charts, graphs, bullet points.
It sounds ridiculous when you describe it, like a gimmick.
It does, but it's actually heartbreaking. It's a young girl trying to analyze her dysfunctional family using data visualization because she can't process the emotions. It captures how technology mediates our feelings.
We hide behind the data.
Exactly. It's intellectually stimulating. It asks the reader to do some work, to piece the puzzle together. The goon in the title is time. Time is a goon. It beats us all up eventually.
It's brilliant, experimental, but deeply moving. It captures the fragmentation of the digital age better than almost anything else.
Okay, next up we have a book that brought a completely new voice to the canon. The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz, 2007.
Talk about energy.
This book vibrates. It's the story of a Dominican-American nerd living in New Jersey, trying to fall in love, while believing his family is cursed by a fuku, a curse from the old country.
And what makes this unique is the voice. It's this mashup of highbrow literary references, sci-fi nerd culture, Lord of the Rings analogies, and Dominican street slang.
It code switches constantly, and it uses footnotes, copious footnotes. But they aren't academic. They're there to tell the brutal history of the Trujillo dictatorship in the Dominican Republic.
So it forces the reader to confront the history that the characters are trying to escape.
Yes, it's essentially arguing that you can't understand this kid in New Jersey unless you understand a dictator in the Caribbean 50 years ago. And it validates nerd culture as a lens for understanding the world.
It's arguably the most fun you can have reading about a multi-generational curse. Accessible, but it teaches you a language as you read it.
For sure. Finally, we're going back to the very turn of the millennium. White Teeth by Zadie Smith, published in 2000. She was only 24 when she wrote it.
Which is frankly infuriating. It's so talented.
I know. This book set the tone for the multicultural London, and by extension, the West of the 21st century. It's vibrant. It's about two war buddies, a Brit and a Bengali, and their families.
But it's really about the collision of cultures.
And unlike the heavier books we started with, White Teeth treats this collision with optimism and humor.
Yeah.
It's chaotic, yes. People are confused about their identities, yes. The older generation doesn't understand the younger one. But it's full of life. It's messy in a way that feels celebratory.
It's a great bookend to the list. We started with the darkness of the road, and we end with the chaotic, joyful energy of White Teeth.
So that's the stack. 10 books, a quarter century of storytelling. We have everything from post-apocalyptic ash to PowerPoint presentations.
It really shows the range, but I want to go back to the question we started with. Are these new classics? Are they the great American novels?
You know, looking at the list as a whole, I think the concept of the great American novel is dead. And that's a good thing,
How so?
because a single book can't capture a fragmented country. America's too big, too weird, and too divided for one story to explain it all. You need the constellation.
I like that image.
You need the road to understand our fear of the future. You need Americanah to understand our borders and our biases. You need the Goon Squad to understand how technology has rewired our brains. The classic of our time isn't one book. It's the conversation between these books.
That's a great way to put it. It's the synthesis. So for the listeners standing in the bookstore right now, staring at a wall of text or scrolling through their Kindle, let's give them the final cheat sheet.
Okay, rapid fire.
If I want to understand the world we live in right now, race, globalization, identity, where do we start?
Start with Americanah. It's the sharpest mirror. It will make you rethink how you see the news.
Check. If I want to feel something profound and am willing to carry some emotional weight.
Read The Underground Railroad or The Road. They will change you. They'll hurt, but it's a necessary hurt.
And if I just want to see what the novel is capable of, if I want to see the form stretch and break and do something new.
Go with a visit from the Goon Squad. It'll make you realize that a book can be anything it wants to be.
And for the narrative lovers, Middlesex or Goldfinch?
Absolutely. There's truly something for everyone here. The only wrong choice is not reading any of them.
Well, that's a wrap on our tour of the 21st century canon. We hope this helps you fill up your nightstand.
We'd love to know which one you pick up first or which one you think we missed. Because I'm sure there's an 11th book out there that people are screaming about right now.
Oh, definitely.
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.